Cheers.
Cheers.
So, welcome back to our podcast, Read and Repeat. It's been a while since we've filmed a video. This is our first one of 2025 and our first one since January 2024. So, hopefully you've all stuck with us. I'm Taylor.
I'm Juliana.
And
we're excited to be back. And you might have noticed our last video was released in 2025, but it was recorded like almost a whole year before.
Yeah.
So it's been a while for us.
It's been a year. It's been almost exactly a year, but we haven't forgotten about it. We are still here, and today we are going to be talking about the Golden Compass. Yeah, bring it up to for those of you who are watching on YouTube or, do we have a video anywhere else?
Spotify has videos now.
If you're watching on
I just do it both.
YouTube or Spotify, you can see we've got this nice old, it's old in a
if
few
you look
ways.
close, this is all taped. The spine is just all taped. It's a mess.
But it's the old cover from a long time ago. It's really nice.
Proof that we did in fact read this book when
it was
we were...
before the movie came out. Now there's a show, right?
Oh yeah, Major Motion Picture
Holiday 2007.
So, yeah, some of you might be familiar with the Golden Compass from the movie, which did not do very well, which is fine, honestly. It wasn't like that great.
I barely remember it, but that's nothing new. As we go through this book and then its sequels, I'm just going to be saying that over and over. I barely remember this.
And other people who have, if you haven't read the book, you might have heard of it through the HBO TV series, His Dark Materials, which is based on the first, second, and third books in the series, which is technically all the books in the series, but there is another series set in this world that Philip Pullman is currently writing. Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
There's going to be... there's 2 out, and then there's going to be at least 1 more, and I don't know if it's going to go beyond that.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I think now, having read the series over, I'll probably read those too.
Yeah, I actually started it.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't gotten too far into it, so.
And I guess we're not really here to talk about that.
No,
so.
We are here to talk about the first book, The Golden Compass.
And what we're hoping to do is actually release a video on all 3 books in this series, but TBD on that. So, for now, just, if you haven't read The Golden Compass, go ahead, pause this video, go do that, and then come back. Or, just hang out, listen to us chat about it. We'll talk a little bit about the plot, and so hopefully you'll get a sense of what happens if you haven't read it or you haven't read it in a while. But there will be spoilers. So, spoiler alert,
yes.
We are going to be talking not just about our thoughts, but also a lot of details, and probably in a really... weird
convoluted way.
Yeah. Just it's hard to keep track of everything that goes on, but we are going to try our best.
This is a book series where even if you listen to this whole podcast and you know what happens in it, it's worth a read because it's not going to give you the whole picture of what's going on here because there's a lot that is going on in this book. So, without further ado, let's get into our discussion. First of all, as we usually do, we start out with what we remember of the book from when we first read it back when we were younger. So, we read this book probably around when we were in like 1995. So it came out before we were born.
Oh, nice. It's older than us. Okay. So let me see when we got this one because this copy you can keep talking. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. So I feel like we read it around like late elementary school to middle school.
Yeah. This was published in 2002, so we probably bought it a couple years after that. Like this physical book was published in 2002.
Yes, I remember. I feel like 5th grade through like middle school.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
Around the age of the character in the book herself was probably when we read it, and I don't remember. Because we have all 3 books, but they're different copies. Like, they don't match. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember if we read this one and then we waited a while to read the rest of the series or not. But I remember I definitely read The Golden Compass more than any of the other books in the series. Like, I reread it multiple times. And I really enjoyed it. But it's weird because I feel like I remember it being a comfort read. But it's not a really comforting book.
No, not at all.
It's not...
I remember enjoying it, but I think I might have only read it twice. Because I feel like I have a recollection of it where as I was going through the book, I was like, okay, I do remember a lot of these things, but I had a very loose grasp on what was coming next. More so than if I'd only read it once. Mm-hmm. Like I did with the second two. I think I only read them once. But I didn't read it as much as you. I remember liking it, but I don't remember it being as impactful as I think it is now, rereading it.
Yeah, it's a wild book to reread as an adult.
Yeah.
And I remembered a lot about it, so I knew it would be. And so this is one I've been wanting to get back to for a long time because it stuck with me in a way where I feel like when I was reading it, there were concepts in it where I could tell it was like just reaching a little bit above maybe where I was functioning. Like there's a lot of like politics and philosophy and theology going on.
And I remember not being super clear, at least with the first book. I remember not being clear why the church didn't like it so much. Because if you don't know, this book definitely caused some controversy with, I think, the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church
specifically. I mean, probably maybe more than one.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't the only
Christianity, but most of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, mostly the Catholic Church. So, and I remember when I was a kid not really getting a total sense of why. And I definitely understand more now.
It's obvious now.
It's way more obvious, but I did not really pick up on that.
And so it's different than even one of the like those books where it's like with Harry Potter, the church has an issue with witchcraft and stuff like that. It's not even about that with this book. It's like this book is it's understandable why the church would have a problem with it.
Yeah.
If the church as an institution wants to defend its image.
Yeah.
Shall we say. And that will become a little bit more obvious as we probably talk about what actually happens in this book.
It also becomes more obvious throughout the series. Like, it just gets more...
Yeah, it just gets more, like, on the nose, where you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what's happening here. But that's one of the things that makes it so impactful and so interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on under the surface and on the surface.
Yeah, on the surface. In between the surfaces, under the surface, I don't know.
Yeah. So before we get too far into discussion without actually talking about the plot, let's give a little summary and then we'll get into the first line.
Okay, great.
How do we summarize this?
How do we summarize this book?
Well, let's see. What does it say on the back?
Oh, yeah. Maybe we just read the back. That might be a good way to do this.
Let's just read the back.
Yeah, let's read the back. Okay. Let's do, like, you read a sentence, I'll read a sentence. Okay. All right.
Lyra is content to run wild among the scholars of Jordan College with her demon familiar always by her side.
But the arrival of her fearsome uncle, Lord Asriel, draws her to the heart of a terrible struggle. A struggle born of gobblers and stolen children, witch clans, and armored bears.
And as she hurtles towards danger in the cold, far north, young Lyra never suspects the shocking truth. She is destined to win or lose this more than mortal battle.
And then it just says that Philip Pullman's award-winning The Golden Compass is a masterwork of storytelling and suspense, critically acclaimed and hailed as a modern fantasy classic. That says almost nothing about the book.
like you read that and you're just like, I don't know what this is about.
But I think that's a better place to start than any, so I guess we'll get into the first line.
I guess that does tell you it's a fantasy series, and there's clearly a lot of things going on that are not within the realms of this reality.
Yeah.
So let's read the first paragraph or so. Like we usually read the first line. I'm going to read the first paragraph of Part 1, Oxford, Chapter 1, The Decanter of Tokay. Lyra and her demon moved through the darkening hall, taking care to keep to one side, out of sight of the kitchen. The 3 great tables that ran the length of the hall were laid already, the silver and the glass catching what little light there was, and the long benches were pulled out ready for the guests. Portraits of former masters hung high up in the gloom along the walls. Lyra reached the dais and looked back at the open kitchen door, and, seeing no one, stepped up beside the high table. The places were laid with gold, not silver, and the 14 seats were not oak benches, but mahogany chairs with velvet cushions.
So, that doesn't give too much away, but it does introduce the concept of the demon.
Yes.
Which is spelled D-A-E, but when the A and the E are, like, smushed together, I don't really know what that's called.
Yeah, we should have looked up what that is.
I don't know.
I'll try to put it on the screen.
Yeah, so then you all know.
Yeah.
Alright, so, yeah, D-A-E, A-E smushed together, M-O-N, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced demon.
It's pronounced demon, which I feel like I only knew confirmed from the second book.
Yeah. In my head, I pronounce it Damon.
Yeah, me too.
Just like Matt Damon.
Yeah. But it's demon, and it's basically like an external soul. Right? External soul, conscious.
It's like it's like a piece of every human. Yeah.
Conscience.
Yeah, conscience. It's kind of the role of the demon is kind of explored throughout the series, where like for me, I was like not really clear, honestly, exactly what part it served. In a later book, we sort of get more of a definitive but it's one of those things that no one in this world really knows for sure, but it's like a normal thing that everyone has a demon. So an external part of them that is with them from the time that they're born that takes the shape of an animal. And we learn pretty early on that children's demons can change shape, turn into different animals up until around like puberty, and then adults, or when they're starting to become adults, their demons stop changing. They settle into one animal form, which usually has some kind of bearing on like what their nature actually is. And it's like a coming of age kind of thing. Yeah.
And so we know that she's got her demon with her. We know that she is at a college. We know that it's
in Oxford.
Yeah. But you don't know exactly what version of Oxford. And eventually I think it becomes apparent pretty quickly that it isn't our version of the world. Like, this is not the world that we live in. It's very similar to it in a lot of ways, but it's not the same.
Yeah, the very interesting thing that this book does is it doesn't, like, take time to orient you in, oh, you are in a fantasy world. You're in a different realm. It just kind of throws you in there, and it just says, like, here's some familiar things. And then here are some things that are definitely not familiar. Figure it out.
Yeah. Because at first, I think probably when I read it, I thought, like, it was a historical kind of sense, but it's not. Like, there's definitely some things that feel older, but then there's also things that are just different.
Yeah, there's aspects of the world that are, like, more old-fashioned. Mm-hmm. I think I was reading somewhere, like, some Victorian aspects, but then some things that are just much more modern to that time, that are more like our time. But then also it's like, the intrigue of like what kind of world this is increased by the fact that they just call certain things by different names. Yeah. And you don't even, like, there was plenty of things that I did not realize for the longest time what they were referring to. And then later on you find out, oh, like, this word refers to this thing in our world, and we just have a completely different word for it, but it's the same thing. So that adds to the strangeness of the world without actually making it that different.
Yes. Also, I realized how dumb it probably just sounded that I said, like, oh, you might be confused whether it's historical fiction or not. Given the existence of the demons, you know that it's not, like, historical fiction. I just meant, like, it's a set in our Oxford, but just a different time, and like also not exactly the same, but like just imagine if our Oxford or our universe did have demons and it's set 100 years ago, whatever. That's what I meant by that. Yeah. I just want to clarify, because obviously it's not the same because 100 or 200 years ago they didn't have demons.
And to be clear, by Oxford we mean Oxford, England, England, which I believe is a city. Or whatever. I don't know. It's where the Oxford College is. And so we're presuming that the college that Lyra is attending is in Oxford, and it is Oxford College.
I think it's Oxford University.
Oxford University, sorry. Because she specifically, we find out, is an orphan who lives within Jordan College of Oxford University. And Jordan College, me reading it, I would just be like, oh, there's a Jordan College and Oxford University. Because I don't know that much about Oxford University. But apparently people who do know anything about that would know that Oxford University in our world does not have a Jordan College. I didn't know that. Okay. So that would be another clue for people who are more familiar with that. Yeah. But
anyway, I feel like that's enough on that. Yeah. Maybe we can start to...
Let's get into the actual story. So things actually
it happens so quickly. Yeah. The pacing in this book is like very quick. Well, it's very quick in the beginning. Then it starts to, I think, meter out a little bit where you're constantly getting new information and the plot is constantly moving forward, but it's like pretty measured. And then it goes back to like very fast at the end.
Yes.
It's like
It's weird because there were definitely some parts where I felt reading as a younger person that were very slow.
I know. I had that same thought when I was younger, and then this time I was like, this is not slow at
Honestly,
all.
I just feel like there were some parts that I was more interested in than others. And as an adult reading it now, I was more interested in just like, oh, okay, like what did I miss when I was a kid? Like what did I really not pick up on? So I was more in it.
I think.
There's a lot that came back to me, but there was a lot where I was like, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, I see that in a new way now. So, so the plot. So we just kick right off in Oxford College, as you probably noticed from the first paragraph.
And since we just talked ad nauseum about it.
Yeah. From the first paragraph, Lyra is looking at like the dinner settings, and like it's clear that a lot of important scholars are going to eat dinner here and whatnot. And she actually is sneaking into a room she's not allowed to be in. Because in this world,
Go ahead.
Most scholars are male. You get pretty quickly the idea that in this world, there's still much more of a gender imbalance than even there is in our world. And there's this thing called the retiring room where the male scholars go after dinner to like smoke, and like sometimes they have speakers who come in.
And women aren't allowed in there.
Yeah.
So she's sneaking in, which I mean, I love that. I'm like, yes, go where you're not allowed.
She's
11.
I
support you. Yeah, she's 11. I think that is important.
That's important. Yeah, our main character, Lyra, is 11 years old. And so she doesn't necessarily have a full concept of like the injustice of that, but she's more just like, her character immediately off the bat is being established as curious, mischievous, and like just unwilling to do what she's told, basically. Yeah. Which is
good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her. So when she's in there, she's just trying to take a quick peek, but then the master of Jordan College comes in, and so she hides. She sees him actually poison a decanter of Tokay, which is like a wine, I assume. And she's like, oh my god, and it's meant for her uncle, Lord Asriel, who up to that point she didn't even know was coming to visit, because he just like kind of shows up and is like, hi, how are you? You're good? Okay, great. Goodbye. Not very affectionate at all. And she's like, oh my god, what do I do? Long story short, she saves her uncle by telling him when he's alone in the room, like, she pops out and is like, hey, don't drink it. I think she actually knocks it out of his hand.
Yeah, and he gets really mad.
Oh, no, yeah.
But then pretty quickly she's like, no, they were gonna, like, murder you, I'm pretty sure. And
he's like,
oh. So he's like, okay, And he's established very quickly as a very imposing figure, very powerful. He's got an aura about him. He has a snow leopard demon named Stelmaria. And actually, that's another important thing. Lyra's demon is Pantalaimon or Pantalimon.
I don't know. I just always say Pan because she calls him Pan, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce it. So.
And Lord Asriel's demon is Stelmaria, a beautiful snow leopard, very regal, very demure.
Very mindful.
Very mindful. I mean, that's kind of like the vibe that I get from her.
Yeah.
It's like, but that gives you a sense of like who Lord Asriel is. He gives this aura of being very imposing. And so the fact that Lyra would like do this to protect him, like obviously it's clear that she has a lot of respect for him and she cares about him, but she also finds him kind of a little bit scary. Yeah. But she also was like not willing to let him die.
Yeah. So I'm just going to try to make it like as quick as possible just because there's so much plot. And so if we do talk about all of it, like it's going to take forever. Yeah. So TLDR, he's like, okay, cool. Thanks. You can stay, watch from the wardrobe, see if like you hear anything else from the master, and like, okay. And he gives this presentation on dust. I'm going to put that in quotes. I'm putting that in quotes.
On something called dust. Something
called dust, which like Lyra hasn't heard about, doesn't really know anything about, but she's like super intrigued because Lord Asriel is an explorer, so he wants to get more funding to go to the north, and he's like, he brought a human head with him and is like, well, this explorer got his head cut off, so like you should let me go up there, I guess. I don't know. And I think when it's unclear whether he gets the funding or not.
He does get the funding.
Oh, he does get the funding. Oh yeah, and then he goes. And then he just like
he does get the funding.
He leaves.
Yeah, so But what's most important about this scene is that we're introduced to the idea of this
Dust.
thing called dust with a capital D that seems to be something that the scholars there, at least, are divided on.
Yeah.
In terms of, does it exist? What does it mean? And are we allowed to even talk about it? Because the powers that be, it seems, are uncomfortable with / disapproving of any study related to this dust.
Yeah.
But we do get the sense that it's something that is related to the difference between children and adults. He shows the slide of a child and an adult in the north standing under the aurora, aurora borealis, which is an important point as well, which we'll talk about in a minute, where there's this, with a specific kind of emulsion, this photograph shows...
Too much detail. Too much detail. You don't even have to say that there's a specific kind of emulsion. We are never going to get through this book. This is literally chapter 1.
He shows a photograph called a photogram that shows this golden light, or I don't even know if it has a color, but these particles of light descending towards a human adult and a human child. And it interacts with the adult, but it doesn't interact with the child. And so we know there's something important about the difference between an adult and a child that dust has to do with.
And that's pretty much as we learn.
No, one more important point.
Okay.
There is also a slide that shows the aurora borealis with a city.
Yeah, I still have a hard time picturing that, actually.
In it, yeah.
How you can see the city.
It's like in the Northern Lights, Lord Asriel has a photogram that shows a city in the lights, almost as if it's a window into another world. And that's his most important point that he is most caught up on, is this idea of there being another world and wanting to explore that, wanting to figure out what that's about. But we don't get a lot of background on why any of this is important, why dust is something that is so contentious, and why Lord Asriel is so interested in exploring this.
Yeah. And so from there, Lyra starts to go more about her life, and she kind of she remembers this, but she forgets it. She's off playing with her friends. You know, she's got her friend Roger. He comes back. We'll talk about him. And he's one of the kids of the servants at Jordan College, and then, you know, they play with the other kids, and then the kids in the town, and then the Egyptians, who are water
nomad kind of tribe of people who come into town every season or so. Yeah. And
so they play with those kids. And
we get a feel for the world.
Yeah, get a feel for the world. And then as that is all happening, stuff starts to happen where children start to be taken. And so we know that they start to be, they're lured by this beautiful woman with a golden monkey demon who's kind of menacing and scary. I always pictured him kind of big, but I'm getting the sense now he wasn't that big.
No, he's not that big.
Yeah, he's not that big.
He's a regular monkey
size. I imagined him big, but I don't think he is. I always imagined her because she'd swing him up onto her shoulder, because they keep their demons in their arms usually, or on their shoulders or stuff like that. Unless they walk beside them or something, and they're snow leopard, you can't really do that. But so I always picture her with this giant ass monkey on her shoulder. It's not that. It's just a little golden monkey. Anyway, I digress. So this beautiful woman lures these children away, and it starts far away from Oxford, but then eventually it comes to Oxford, and they call them the Gobblers.
Yes, and we get the sense that the Gobblers is some kind of name. We don't really know where it comes from, but it's one of those things that people just came up with a name for the people who are disappearing these children, because no one really knows who they are and why they're doing this.
Yeah.
And the only reason we know anything is because, and this is an important point we should talk about now, the perspective in the book is third person, but it does switch around amongst different characters, and not necessarily characters that we follow consistently. So Lyra is the most consistent one. She's the main character. But we do get scenes where we see from the perspective of the master. Mm-hmm. We see from the perspective of a child who is taken by the Gobblers, who is a very poor child who is easily lured away because he doesn't have a lot of people looking for him to take care of him. And he's not a character that necessarily we come back to.
But that's why we know whenever a beautiful woman with a golden monkey demon Demon visits Oxford College and Lyra meets her, we know as the readers that she is the bad woman who's been taking people or taking children, but Lyra doesn't know that, and Lyra's like completely transfixed. That's a recurring thing. This woman's name is Mrs. Coulter. That's a recurring thing throughout the series, is that she is just bewitching. Like, people will just do what she wants them to. She has so much power and influence, like, with the church and outside of it, and like, people cannot resist her, including Lyra. Lyra's like totally taken. She's like, oh my god.
Yes, and on that point, actually, as you said, with the church, in this world we are meant to understand that the church as an establishment has much more power than the church in our current world. Where the church is actually like the main governing body of, I don't know if it's of the whole world or just like Europe or just Britain really, but like
it has more influence.
It has more influence and power. The actual capital, I mean, not the capital, but like instead of the Vatican being in Rome and like the center of Catholic power being in Rome, it's in Geneva instead. And it's implied that even within like colleges and universities, like there's a lot of emphasis on like science and studies, and Lyra grows up around that, but even in those fields the church is in control of all those things.
And actually science is called, what's it called?
Experimental
theology.
Yeah.
Which I found, like, as soon as I read that, I was like, I did not clock it when I was a kid that means scientist. Like, that's what that is. It's experimental theology. I love that. That's a great
and there's so many little details like that you just might miss because you just are like, I don't know what's going on.
There's so much happening.
But it's cool to put the pieces together as you go.
Yeah. So really quickly after Lyra meets Mrs. Coulter, like the next day, that night, Mrs. Coulter's like, do you want to come live with me? And Lyra's like, okay. And she literally does the next day. But before she does, and this is very important, the master of Jordan College, like, sends for her, like, early in the morning before she leaves and is like, okay, I need to give you this thing. I can't tell you how to read it or how to use it. Like, good luck. Don't tell Mrs. Coulter about it. He starts to say something about Lord Asriel. Someone comes to the door. She's got to go. So he just gives her this thing that looks like apparently a golden compass. Although in my head, I never ever pictured it as golden for whatever reason. Like, there was a point before I started the golden compass, I was like, what is the golden compass? I don't even remember there being one. It's literally this thing called the alethiometer. I just happen to picture it as like dark navy. I don't know why, like dark navy shiny metal. But so it's like a compass, and it's got all these different figures around it, and a bunch of like 4 different needles in the middle that can point to, you can twist 3 of them to point to the different, like, what is it, 30 something
like
symbols,
pictures, like little symbols on it. And we'll learn more later about what it actually does, but right now Lyra does not know what it does at all. Interesting point though, when it comes to the Golden Compass, the name of the book.
Yes.
Actually, the Golden Compass, technically, now I think it does work as a reference to the alethiometer, but it's actually technically only the American title for this book.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The original English title, British title, is The Northern Lights.
Oh,
because the Northern Lights do play an important role in this. The Golden Compass was the one that the American publishers apparently liked better. He was considering it, Pullman was considering it as the title, but it is specifically a reference to a line in Paradise Lost by John Milton, where the author John Milton is referring to the golden compasses, which I think is actually referring to the kind of compass that you use in like architecture and drawing. Oh. And so it's more like the tools that the creator uses to create the world, right? Okay. And so that's what the Golden Compass is referring to. However, I'm assuming it kind of implied it in like the Wikipedia page or wherever I was reading this, that the Golden Compass title didn't mean to refer to the alethiometer, but I have to assume that was in his head when he was thinking that this would be a good...
Because the other 2 book titles directly refer to the things that are in the book.
Yes. I mean, unless, it was like an act of fate and like retroactively it makes it makes the series all like really feel like they mesh together. Yeah. Like the book titles.
Actually like the Golden Compass better than the Northern Lights.
I do
maybe
too.
That's just because
I do, because of the references they go so it like works so well because the references go like 3 layers deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of like, oh, the golden compass, the alethiometer. Also, the golden compass is referring to a line in Paradise Lost, which is heavily like referenced, and it is a big inspiration for these books. And the idea of the golden compasses as the creator and the concept of like who created the world and whatnot, which becomes more important later on.
So I feel like the
series.
golden compass works better.
So I really do like this title personally.
Yeah.
A lot.
So I guess it didn't really matter that I couldn't picture the alethiometer as gold for the longest time.
No, but
I
it
can
is
now,
gold.
kind of. But I kind of see them both at the same time, where I'm looking at it, and it's like one is like this deep navy, purpley metal, and gold. Anyway, so yeah, he gives her that. She is off on her way, and then she goes with Mrs. Coulter, who's like promises her that they'll visit the northern. Not the Northern Lights.
North.
Just the North in general. And so she starts, like, training her. It's not, like... It doesn't get super detailed into, like, what she's trained in.
No, and it's kind of just... Because basically Mrs. Coulter told her a bunch of stories about her travels. And so Lyra is a character who is established as, like, a wild child, very adventurous, very courageous, very brash, very bold. Definitely not like a little lady.
No.
She's just out there running wild. And she's enamored by like the concept of adventure, basically. Yeah. And seeing this powerful woman show her like the example of who she could be and what she could do. And also like, knowing her the things that she learned when she saw Lord Asriel present in the retiring room, she's still curious about the idea of dust. She doesn't know what it is, but she wants to know. She's like take me to the north, show me everything that you know. Like, she's ready to go.
And so, in the meantime, Mrs. Coulter's like, oh, we'll, like, teach you stuff. And it's not clear to me, like, how much she's actually taught. Lyra tells people that she's taught things and knows things. And Lyra's also an established liar.
Yeah.
Like, she just, like, makes things up. Like, as kids do, but also in a very, like, she's clearly got a very vivid imagination kind of way. So... You can almost take what she says with a grain of salt. So it's unclear to me when she says later on to people that she has learned this stuff. Not convinced that she has, or at least not that thoroughly. What she does do is do a lot of shopping.
Yeah.
She gets a lot of new clothes, which that's super fun. And then hangs out around this beautiful apartment.
In London.
Yeah. That is great and fancy. But eventually she starts to get kind of like, well, her demon is the first to say like, I don't think that she's actually going to take us to the north. And also, the golden monkey's scary.
Yeah.
Which it is.
It is. Oh my god. And we never get a name for him.
No, we don't.
We never get a name for him. He's the only demon, I think. I mean, like, except for the ones that aren't important.
Right, yeah.
You know, but out of, like, all the mentioned characters who are really important to the story, I think he's, like, the only one that doesn't get a name.
Which
is...
It makes
so
it even
fascinating.
More, like, you know.
Yeah, it does serve the purpose of making him even more of an unknown, like... Other scary kind of character, which is so funny because he is part of Mrs. Coulter. So this book does have a fantastic atmosphere of just being like a little creepy, but also the fact that there are a lot of things that we learn before Lyra, and there's a lot of references to, like, Lyra wouldn't know what that meant until later.
Yeah.
You know, it's ominous.
It's ominous. The vibes, the feelings that this book gives are so good. Like, every little thing there, and it continues throughout the whole series, where I'm like, oh my god, I see exactly what this author was trying to make me feel, and I felt it. Like, I can tell that this was the intent, and it worked. Like, but like, it's not, I'm not being taken out of the story. Like, I just feel like I'll realize it after the fact, where I'm like, damn, that was intense. It was tense, and like, that's what was intended. Or like, oh my god, I totally like fell for Mrs. Coulter's like sweet facade for a minute there. Like, damn, I guess I understand how people are like getting like entrapped by her. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's good. Like,
it's good. It's
there's
really good.
So much feeling in it.
So much feeling. And that's another thing, is Lyra is a very feeling character. Mm-hmm. She cries a lot throughout the books. Mm-hmm. She gets very emotional, angry, whatever, this, that. In a way that, like, a child her age might, but also in a way that I think shows her as a very passionate, fiery character, which is the way that she's supposed to be. And and is in contrast to some of the other characters that we see around. So she's got a very well-defined character. I think all the characters are very well-defined in that they feel multifaceted. They feel well-established, but, like, also not one-dimensional at all, even if they are clearly certain archetypes.
Yeah.
I think he does a good job of balancing that. And it does feel like Lyra is a character who can simultaneously be a child who does not have a lot of power in her own story, yet it's believable that she does drive a lot of her story in the way that she interacts with people, the way that she pushes for certain things, the way that she stands up for certain things. And it's like this interesting mix. In this book especially, she's so young, like it really feels like she's being carried along by the adults around her, but at the same time, like, she asserts herself in the story as a character.
She has some measure of influence. Like, you know, people do listen to her. So she's with Mrs. Coulter, starts to get suspicious, and then Mrs. Coulter has a party, and there's one moment where, like, they're getting ready for the party, and she, like, snaps at her, and the monkey, like, I think the monkey picks up Pan?
He slams
him. Like, really, like, aggressively. Oh, and that's another thing is, people don't touch each other's demons. Like, it is taboo. The demons can touch each other, and the people can touch each other, but you cannot touch someone's demon. Like, that is not okay.
Yeah.
So that's just good. Keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So then Lyra's like, oh my god, like, she really is kind of scary.
Yeah, because when he, like, pins Pantalaimon, it's very violent, and it's also, I think, the most significant moment where we learn that a human and their demon do feel each other's feelings and pain physical to an extent. Yeah. And there is somewhat of a, like, some kind of telepathic bond there too. Like, it's very much, they are part of you. So the monkey demon is hurting both of them when he pins Pan, and it's a very scary moment.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's like, it flips.
Yeah.
Like, Mrs. Coulter's relationship with Lyra just, like, flips in that moment.
And, like, we already knew she was bad, but this was the first time that, like, Lyra saw it, and the first time we'd seen her be bad, like, that in a while.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, it's very ominous. It's very clear that she's not, like, doing something that's okay, but at the same time, we don't know why she's taking the children. So we don't even know, like, what she or the organization that she's working with are doing with them. We don't even know what kind of villain she might be, if she is one.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But so at this party, like, Lyra's going around, like, just talking to people, saying a little bit too much, but, like, in a measured way. She's trying to get reactions, but she's talking about, like, I know about dust. Mrs. Coulter's going to take me to the north. And, like, she catches the attention of some people. And, like, one is a reporter that Mrs. Coulter, like, gets super angry with and, like, throws out of the party. And another is this guy, Lord Boreal,
yeah.
Yeah. Who, basically is like, oh, so you know all this. So, la-da-da-da-da, you know about the General Oblation Board. GOB, the Gobblers, and then, like, he lets it slip that, not lets it slip, he thinks that Lyra knows. He lets it slip that Mrs. Coulter is, like, part of the General Oblation Board and is part of the group that has been capturing kids.
Children, yeah.
And so she's like, I gotta get out of here. We
didn't talk about, but before Lyra left with Mrs. Coulter. Okay.
Well, when we talk about Billy, we could just...
All right, yeah, right.
Yeah. And then also, like, while this is happening, Pan and Lyra realize that the monkey demon was in the room, and he saw that they have the alethiometer, which he wasn't supposed to tell Mrs. Coulter that she had. So, right then and there, Lyra's like, all right, we're going. She goes in her room, grabs her stuff, and runs away.
Yeah. And she's, you know, out there on the streets. She does run into a man who, like... She uses her lying powers on. She's very good at, like, making stories up on the fly. Like, it's, like, emphasized. It's an important part of her character. And so she does that with this man who makes her kind of uncomfortable when he's trying to, like, make conversation and maybe, like, help her.
Yeah.
But then she runs into some, like, I don't know, this world equivalent of, like, human traffickers or something.
Yeah. But fortunately, they're not gobblers. They're just bad people.
Yeah.
Fortunately, she's saved by some Egyptians that she knows, who happen to be related to this kid Billy Costa, who was taken by the Gobblers right before Lyra left. At the same time, the same day as her friend Roger was also taken. And Lyra had kind of forgotten, like, she didn't forget about Roger, but she kind of, like, lost sight of things because she was so enamored with Mrs. Coulter and possibly going to the north. She kind of forgot to, like, oh yeah, like, Roger was missing, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he was taken by the Gobblers. And so now she's with, like, these people who have been... They're kind of working towards the same thing that she is because their children have been taken. And they're actually, like, pretty excited to see her.
Yes, and actually the Costa family, which consists of Ma Costa, like the mother, and she's referred to as Ma Costa, and Tony Costa, the older son, and Billy Costa, the younger son, who's the one that's been taken, they have known Lyra for a long time. And Lyra has known of them, and she used to play with the kids and everything, and she and her friends stole one of their boats once, and it was a whole thing. So there's definitely a relationship that goes way back. So it's lucky that these people are the ones who rescued her, because they take her back to their boat, and Ma Costa is immediately like, oh, like, let's take you in, let's take you with us. We're on our way to a big meeting with all the other Egyptians. And
you can come.
You can come. We're going to decide what we're going to do about these Gobblers, about getting our children back, basically.
Yeah. And Lyra's like, yes, I want to do that too. I got to save Roger.
Yeah.
So she goes with them on their ships, and, like, people are looking for her, obviously, because Mrs. Coulter's, like, not just going to let her get away. Because one of the things we know is that Lyra's a little bit more important than other kids. I think we got from the perspective of the Master of Jordan College that, like, there's some prophecy about her, and, like, she's got to do something that will, like, save everybody. But if she knows that she's got to do it, then it's not going to work, and it's not going to save everybody. We don't really know what that means, but we're pretty sure that she's on her way to start this quest.
Yeah, and, like, I don't even know if we learn all of that. I think the Master implies, though, there's something. It's, like, very slowly... Information is disseminated very interestingly throughout these books, where, like, a little crumb here, and then a few more crumbs, and then
like, also,
a few more crumbs.
Like, stuff is happening constantly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crumbs to pick up.
But the picture is, like, all coming together slowly. There's just a lot of little things coming together to create it.
We're with the Egyptians now. And so they're kind of, like we mentioned, they're nomadic. Somewhat, they live most of their life on the waterways and their boats, and they're also definitely considered lesser than other, I think, groups of people in the world. There's some mention of that when John Fa is, like, talking to everybody, like, kind of that the other people who've lost their children don't care about the Egyptian children, so they're going to make sure that they get their children back.
There's definitely, like, a separation between them and, like, the land people.
Yeah, it's probably, like, a class thing, but we don't really know, and that's probably mostly because, like, we're coming from Lyra's point of view, but it also doesn't play too heavily in the book.
Yes. But we also learn here some important things about Lyra's past.
Because John Fa and Farder Coram...
We should introduce them again, because we didn't actually finish introducing them. So, first of all, we're with the Costas, but we also meet some other important Egyptian figures, including John Fa and Farder Coram.
Farder.
Yeah. I'm afraid that with an American accent...
I'm just going to say fodder.
Yeah.
Because that's how I read it anyway. My brain did not pick up on the R at all.
Yeah, because I just feel like every time I say it with an American accent, I'm just saying farder.
Yeah.
So, Farder, we'll call him that, Farder Coram, are two older men, especially Farder Coram is a very old man, and they are and John Fa is the leader of the Egyptians, basically, and they, along with Ma Costa, end up filling in a lot of Lyra's backstory that she didn't even know about. So it turns out that not only do the Egyptians have some kind of allegiance, not necessarily an official one, but an allegiance to Lord Asriel, because he is, he has, I guess, helped them out in the past, I think. I forget exactly what he did. But they also know who Lyra is, in that she's not an orphan in the sense that she thought she was. Actually, she is the child of Lord Asriel, who we thought was her uncle.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Coulter,
who she just ran away from.
great.
Yeah.
Which is...
She takes that in stride.
Yes. And
she takes everything in stride.
She's just basically like, well, yeah, I guess I should have some really, like, intimidating, powerful parents. Why not? You know?
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, why not? But she's also terrified of Mrs. Coulter at this point.
Yeah.
She always had a kind of respect for Lord Asriel, and so that kind of increases now that, like, she has the comparison of, like, well, at least he's my dad if my mother is, like, this kind of awful person.
Yeah.
But she wasn't really raised by him or anything. She doesn't really know much about him. But she does have this feeling of, like, oh, well, if he's my father and the master was going to poison him, but then he didn't, but then he gave me the alethiometer, and he said something about Lord Asriel, maybe he actually wants me to bring this alethiometer to my father. Maybe now that he's not dead, maybe there's something he needs this for, or whatever. Yeah. So we also get the background on, like, the torrid affair that was Lord Asriel and Mrs. Coulter's relationship, and that Mrs. Coulter was married to a politician or high up dude named Mr. Coulter.
And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if it's super important. It was like he had an affair, and then, well, she had an affair with Lord Asriel, and then they were like two power hungry people and wasn't compatible, and they were like, no, okay.
Yeah, but there was something of like the reason that Lyra essentially, like, her whole existence was so contentious because of the affair, but also because when Miss Coulter's husband found out about the affair, he went to confront Lord Asriel, and Lord Asriel killed him. And it was in defense of his child, so the church was like, the government was like, okay, like, you can live and whatever, you're allowed to defend your family, but also, they, I think, took, like, all of his money and, like, whatnot. So, that's, and there's also another important element where we're starting to get an idea. I don't think that the Egyptians necessarily say it outright, that Lyra is, like, an important child because of some kind of prophecy or anything, but we get the idea that, like, she has been an important, like, to them, at least, an important figure. Like, there is some kind of, like, importance that goes beyond just who her parents are. Mm-hmm. And that also might have played a role in why she was raised at Jordan College and why she never knew that Lord Asriel was actually her father. Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Coulter was her mother.
They also shed light on the alethiometer and kind of tell her a little bit more about how to read it, because otherwise she had just been, like, staring at the symbols and twisting the dials. There are three needles that move around and you can position, and then another one just swings around itself, and she was kind of just, like, looking at it, staring at it, and they kind of tell her, like, okay, all these symbols mean something, and they actually have many, many meanings, and, like, there's a whole book that tells you what all their meanings are. And basically, you ask it a question by turning the three dials that you can and thinking of those meanings, and then that fourth needle that spins around, that will tell you what the answer is. Mm-hmm. And you can ask pretty much any question, and it will tell you. And so she's like, okay, and she immediately starts to kind of pick up on this. It's slow, like, you do see a progression, but she immediately starts to kind of pick up on it, and it's very cool. And I wanted to ask you, because it reminds me, I'm like, this feels like tarot cards, because there's, like, all of the cards have, like, multiple layers of meanings, and then you also, like, get like so many different combinations of the cards and the symbols, so it just feels like that.
Yes, that is exactly the feeling I had when I was reading this. I was like, oh, the alethiometer, it's called, like, a truth teller, you know? Mm-hmm. It's basically a divination tool. It's divination. So what she's doing is divination, and to me, like, the way that the book describes the way that Lyra accesses the different meanings for the images and the answers that come to her reminds me a lot of just, like, tapping into your intuition when you're reading tarot cards and because sometimes, like, meanings will just come to you. A card that means something in one context, you'll get it the next day and it'll mean something completely different. And it's kind of the same thing that's happening with Lyra, where she's just able to intuitively, like, get herself, she describes the state of mind that she gets into. It's almost like she's getting herself into an altered state of mind, mm-hmm. where, like, her mind is, like, relaxed It's like in this
She
like
just
kind of
allows stuff to come to her.
yeah, it's like it can't be like she can't be really like searching for an answer or like gripping too hard for an answer. It's like she's letting her mind relax and like almost like her vision go out of focus. And it's very much like getting into an altered state to do like divination and things like that. And so I was like, that's so cool. When I was younger, I also thought that was cool, but I did not have the background or experience to know what that feels like and relate that to a real life phenomenon. I assume that the concept of the alethiometer comes from the idea of divination, but when I was younger, I was just like, oh, cool. Like, cool fantasy thing. Now I'm like, oh, like, there's a real life basis for that. And I think it's really interesting, though, that it's very specifically unusual for anyone to just be able to read it.
Yeah.
It typically requires years and years of study into all the different meanings to understand them before you can actually put them all together. So it's a lifetime pursuit of certain scholars to learn to read this tool.
And the other thing I think we should mention is there's only like 4 of these that were ever made.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. And I remember when I was younger, I feel like I didn't really pay as much attention to how it was read. Like, I don't remember that like so much, but I feel like I really appreciated the care that was taken into describing how it worked and like how it started clicking in Lyra's mind. I really liked that.
I was like, I feel like this guy has like done his own divination or something. Yeah. Like he was very good at explaining like something that feels like a very like not concrete experience, like a very internal, subtle experience that multiple times over the books Lyra does try to explain to other people and other people explain to her, because it ends up relating to different things that other characters have to do. Like, that state of mind is one that comes up again and again.
Yeah.
And will become important later.
Yeah. So she starts to figure out how to read it. She's able to convince the Egyptians, because they're putting together an army of, like, men, mostly, to go... Not mostly, entirely, of men to go save the children in the north. And so she convinces them to take her with them
by actually reading the alethiometer, because she is able to predict / find out that one of the spy missions that they've sent some of their like agents on has gone wrong, and one or multiple of the people are dying or are in danger or are going to die. I forget exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But that ends up happening. And then they're like, okay, well...
Might be useful.
This is probably going to be useful. We don't want to bring you because this will be dangerous, but...
We're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
So they do it, and she travels on a bigger ship to the north, and at one point a little beetle that is... mechanical beetle with the spirit attached to it that was sent by Mrs. Coulter. Basically, it's like got a mission, seek her out. They make their way there. That's not a super
it's
big
like
thing.
It's like seems important in the moment, but it's like this weird like bug thing that is I guess tuned to find Lyra, and it has like a spirit in it, and the only way that they can keep it from like finding her and then going back to Mrs. Coulter is like they have to trap it in a thing, because it will just never stop, essentially. And like they do in some kind of tin, and they like solder it shut, and it's like briefly important again later, so keep a pin in that.
But one of the things that is important is Father Coram tells her about Serafina Pacala, who is a witch that he once had relations with, because apparently witches do that with men. They're like,
that's an important thing. Witches in this world.
Yeah, there are witches in this world. And
they're only women.
Oh, yeah.
And they also live for a long, long time. Like much longer than...
of years, if not 1,000.
Yeah.
So he had, when he was younger, he hooked up with a witch because he saved her life, and she thought that was cool. And so he was hoping to enlist help from the witches. So they stop at this town. They stop at a town, and they're going for the north. They stop at a town, and they there's an outpost with like a witch liaison. I forget what they call him.
Like, oh yeah, the consul.
Yeah, witch consul, who's a dude, and not a witch, but he like basically gives Lyra a task, and to go, because witches fly on pine branches, and there were a bunch lined up outside, and he was like, go choose the one that Serafina, because she's a queen now, that Serafina Pekkala has touched. And so she goes outside, she uses the alethiometer, and she touches it, and he's like, yep, that's the one.
In the meantime, he and Farder Coram are talking about the prophecy. And this is where it's confirmed that the witches have a prophecy about a child like this, that she has to go on some kind of quest, but she can't be guided, basically, through it.
So Lyra comes back, and he, I think, sends a message to Serafina Pekkala. We don't know if she's going to get it in time, blah, 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 blah. But then they're back on the ship, traveling again, and Serafina Pekkala does send her demon to them, because witch demons can go way further away than human being demons can. There's a finite distance for human being demons before it hurts, there's a pulling, and it hurts both the demon and the human, but it's not the same for witches. They can just...
Yeah, they're demons.
And all their demons are birds.
Yeah, all witch demons are birds, because witches can fly. That is very interesting and important later. Mm-hmm. The fact that typically, I think it's only maybe a meter or so that demons can get away from their human, maybe a few meters before it is painful. That Lyra, there's one little moment that Lyra reflects on how all children will experiment with that, because it's kids are still learning everything, and they're ooh, how far away can I get, But then they always end up having to come back together, because they cannot separate. But that's why, at first, it was disturbing for Lyra to see this demon so far away from their human. Yeah. Because that doesn't it feels weird to her. Yeah. It feels unnatural.
So, I think basically it's a goose, I think. Serafina Pekkala's demon basically we'll help you, and had some questions, and then they answer them, and then he flies back. Oh, that was another thing that we didn't mention, is that demons almost always are the opposite sex of the individual.
Yes.
There's a brief mention of sometimes there is a rare person where it's the same sex as them, but
we don't really explore that. Again, yeah.
No. So anyway, the goose flies back to Serafina Pekkala, and we're pretty hopeful that she's going to help. And in the meantime, I think this is where they go further north to a different town. Is he the one who tells them about the armored bear? How do they...
They stop at a few towns. I think the witch consul is the one who tells them about the armored bear.
The witch consul tells them about this town where an armored bear is. And...
He's because Farder Coram is is there anything that I should know?
Yes, right.
Because these people have ways of knowing things.
Yes.
So what would help us most in this moment? Is there anything
an armored bear, actually.
Yes.
So they go further north to a different town, and... there's an armored bear there, and the armored bears live even farther up in the north in Svalbard. Yeah, Svalbard. But this bear just happens to be not home, and
so a little bit about armored bears.
Yeah,
they're essentially polar bears, but they're sentient.
Yes,
and they wear armor. That's an important part of their culture.
Yeah,
their
and they can talk. They can talk.
Yeah.
So this town has an armored bear that they basically the story comes out got him drunk one night because he got exiled from from Svalbard.
His people, yeah.
Yeah, from his people. And they got him drunk and stole his armor, which is a huge piece of him, and he will not leave the town until he gets his armor back. But in the meantime, he's doing metal work for them, because these armored bears are very good with metal. They can do fantastic metal work with their claws. And so he wants his armor back. And so in the meantime, he works. He doesn't know where it is, otherwise he would go get it. But he works, and he does metal work, and he gets paid in food and drink.
And he's basically an alcoholic. He's sad. Because, as we learn, these armored bears don't have... And they're called... What are they called?
I don't remember.
Pangbjorn.
Yeah.
Something like that. Which Lyra actually realizes she heard the name of that. It was referenced when she was...
We'll get to that.
But yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, these armored bears, this one explains to us that armor is his soul, basically. It's his demon, because these bears don't have demons, but he feels the attachment to the armor that he has is similar to what a human has to a demon. So Lyra's like, well, we can't let him go on without his armor.
No. So she reads the alethiometer. It tells her where it is. She tells him. He goes to get it. She makes him stop hurting people because he's like gonna rampage. And she's like, no, don't do that. You said you owe me because you told me, because I told you where your armor was. Don't hurt people. And he's like, well, you're right. Okay, I won't.
Yeah, he's got a very solid honor code, this bear.
Yeah. And from like that moment on, he is like totally like, Lyra's my girl. I will protect her. I will do what she needs from me.
Yeah.
But so the Egyptians hire him and his friend, his one friend in the town, my fave, Lee Scoresby. He's not like super big in this book. Like he is. Don't get me wrong. Like he is. But I feel like he does more in the second book.
Yeah.
I love Lee Scoresby, and he is a Texan because Texas exists. Also, Wells Fargo exists in this universe, which I think is hilarious.
And the thing that I think is fascinating is that Texas is a country, and we never hear mention of America.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no.
So I don't know if Texas, the state as it exists, became a country, or if Texas is just what they call America.
Right.
Which would be really funny for, like, a British dude writing about, like, an alternate America, just calling it Texas.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
It is funny. But I think, side note only, one thing before I do the side note, he flies a hot air balloon. They don't call it a hot air balloon. They call it a weather balloon. I don't know. They call it like, it's a balloon.
And he's called an aeronaut.
Yeah, he's an aeronaut. He flies a hot air balloon. And so they also hire him. They hire him and the armored bear, Eorik.
Yes.
The bear's name is Eorik. I-O-R-E-K.
Eorik Burnison.
Yeah, Burnison.
And we didn't like say this outright, but they have discovered that the gobblers are taking the children north. That's why they're going north.
Yes.
I don't think we ever said that.
No, I don't think we did. They're going north because that's where the children have been taken.
Yeah.
Anyway, side note only, have you read Dracula?
I haven't read it, no.
There's a Texan, I think he's a Texan in Dracula, like, because Dracula is set in, spoilers, Dracula is set in England mostly, and Eastern Europe, and, there's a guy, Arthur, who's like one of the men who's like wooing Lucy, and he's just like there for some reason, and that is what Lee reminds me of, the token Texan in Europe, and I love it. So anyway, that's a fun fact for you all. Yeah, I don't know, because he like and similarly to Arthur, like he just jumps in the fray. Both Lee and Arthur jump in the fray, and Arthur tragically dies. More on that later, I guess. But Arthur dies fighting vampires. Anyway, back to the story at hand and not a different book. So yeah, they all set off, and now eventually they can't. Their boats will go no further, so they got to go overland, and they've got sled dogs and sleds, and an armored bear and a balloon guy, and they are like all set.
And there's a lot of care that goes into describing like the supplies that they get and the types of clothing that they wear and like how warm it is. Also, I think I said it earlier in this discussion, but Lyra falls asleep a lot. Like,
you actually didn't say it earlier in the discussion. You said that earlier to me today.
Yeah. Okay. One thing, it becomes even more so, I feel like, at this point going forward, but like I feel like there's a lot of scene transitions when Lyra falls asleep.
Yeah.
So it's either like she's going to sleep for the night, or it's like, oh, you've been, through a lot, it's time to go to sleep. And she's like, oh yeah, and she was feeling really tired, and then she just drifted off to sleep. Yeah. There is so much of that.
A lot of her sleeping.
It's not like really a good or a bad thing. It just is. But I thought that was funny because after a while I was like, man, this girl sleeps a lot. I wish I could fall asleep as fast as she does. There's a lot of like when we blink out of her perspective, it's because she like fell asleep.
Yeah. Okay, so now they're going north, and they somehow hear of something like some sort of spirit that's plaguing another town. And
this is way further north, so it's like kind of like
the days are like
desolate,
short too. There's mostly dark all the time,
and snow everywhere.
Yeah,
so it's like one of those like way northern towns, like covered in ice and snow.
Yeah. And Lyra has like a sense about it, and she's like, I need to go check this out.
Because I think when she asks the alethiometer, it tells her that, like, there's some kind of... It tells her something about that, and then she's like, I feel like I need to go check it out. Yeah.
So Yorick Burnison is like, yeah, I will take you. And so she leaves the group. Like, they're just going to go on a quick little side quest. She leaves the group on the back of Yorick, and they go to this town, and it's really creepy because they find, very sadly, a little boy who does not have a demon. And so he's like half alive, basically.
This part is so messed up.
It's so messed up.
It's so...
I hate it.
So sad.
I hate it.
It's... Because the book does a very good job at, like, really driving home the bond between a human and their demon, and how unnatural and strange and, like, taboo it would be to see someone without one. Like, that it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like something that's, like, too horrific to even consider. And even though we don't have anything like that in, like, this realm of reality, you feel that.
Yeah, you can still get a sense
you feel
of
that.
What it
like, and you feel the dread and, like, the weirdness of it, and just... And it's also the boy that we saw way earlier being taken by Mrs. Coulter in the story. Yes. It's the same, like, poor boy who was taken away.
And he's, like, calling out for his demon. Her name is Ratter. And he's just like, where's my Ratter? Like, I want
And he's
her.
holding a dead fish.
He's holding a dead fish.
Because demons, basically, like, they are often there to comfort their human. They're, like, usually...
They're there for everything. They're conscience. They're for comfort. They're to talk to give ideas, and, like, you know,
and they're part of you.
Yeah.
And so he's missing a part of himself.
Yes. And so it's really sad. So she brings him back, and everybody's, like, horrified because this is not natural. Like, this child is basically a ghost, and, like, sadly he dies, but almost it's, like, better because he's never going to be made whole again. Like, up until this point, they didn't even know that you could separate someone from their demon. So, like, how the hell would they go about getting him connected again, you know? Like, yeah. So
it's really sad.
Really sad.
There's a really nice moment where Lyra, first of all, defends, because she's like, they're burying him, and she's like, where's the fish that he was holding? And
someone ate it.
I think someone fed it to their dogs or something.
Yeah.
He's like, I just figured, you know, it wasn't that, it was just, he didn't need it anymore, he's dead. And Lyra was like, that was basically, like, the only symbol he had left of his demon. So she was really upset about that. So she takes out a golden coin and carves the name Ratter, because that's what he was saying was the name of his demon, into it, and, like, puts it in his mouth, because this is what she saw they did in the crypts of Jordan College for the Masters when their demons died. They had, like, a gold coin with their demon's name in it, in their
when the demons
skull.
and the Masters die, not just the demons.
Yeah, because we also know that when humans die, their demons disappear into, like... So
then very quickly after that, I think, they are set upon by this northern tribe of people, the Tartars, who are working with the church people up in the north, and they steal Lyra and bring her to exactly where the other children are, this place called Bolvangar.
Yeah, Bolvangar.
And
now Lyra knows what they're doing to the children. They're separating them from their demons for some reason.
Yeah, but she doesn't know why, but she knows that that's happening. And so she's like, okay, like, again, takes it in stride. And it's like, great, well, I'm where I need to be. Like, let me find out information. So she's like trying to talk to the children, and they're like, some of them know stuff, some of them don't, but, like, she's piecing stuff together. She finds Roger and Billy Costa. They are both there, which is great news. They have not been separated from their demons yet, but, like, some of the kids know that, like, that's kind of what happens. I don't know how they figured it out, but, like, they know.
They have an idea that at least it's something like that's sinister or whatever. Like, the kids are not portrayed as stupid at all, actually.
No.
Like, there are some that are more curious and some that are more interested,
and some that are just scared, you know. But, like, it is what it is. So, like, it's kind of like a day camp vibe where, like, they have different activities for them to do, and mostly the boys are kept separate from the girls, and Lyra's like, okay, how can I, like, casually talk to Billy and Roger? And, like, she starts to formulate a plan. And there's one point where does she trip the fire alarm in this situation?
No,
there's a fire drill.
Yeah.
Which is what gives her the idea later. There's a fire drill, and so and they all have to go outside, and, like, it's very clear that there's a lot of order in the whatever facility, I guess you call it. There's a lot of order in the facility, but like the adults don't really know what to do. The adults like are very like blah.
Yeah, and they're like, people who like clearly, first of all, haven't run like a school or anything. They're I got the sense of like, you know, the scientist vibe where they don't necessarily know about children and how to handle them, but then also
they're blah.
Some of them are just especially
very
lacking
uncurious.
In personality.
Yeah, they're just there.
They don't ask questions. They don't really.
So Lyra, being the smart, resourceful child she is, gets a snowball fight started. So it's even harder for the adults to like wrangle up all the children outside, and so she and Roger and Billy like go explore, and she finds to her heart. Oh, and Serafina Picala's demon also shows up.
Yeah.
I don't remember why,
but he's
great,
there.
He does. Yay. And they find like a room with these like faded, like weak demons that have clearly been separated from their
really
humans.
Sad.
It's so
once again
sad.
Very sad.
It's so sad. But Lyra frees them all, and Serafina Picala's demon like ushers them away. Like they can all change still, so they change into birds. And hopefully maybe will be reunited with their humans, even though it won't be in the same sense. Like, but like you never know, because the fact that the demons are still there means that the kids are still alive.
Yeah,
that they were once attached.
There are ones that were like there were no demons there, and we knew that the one with Tony's, the kid who we found earlier, we know that his was there, and now she's gone. So we know that he died, but the rest of them haven't.
Yeah. So after that successful heist, like she gets back inside with all the kids, and you know everything's fine. But then she like starts hatching a plan to escape.
Essentially planning to pull the fire alarm and have the kids basically knowing that the Egyptians are on their way. They know where they're going. They're still on their way. Knowing that, I think the witch's demon also told her that. She is going to pull the fire alarm and get the children to all go outside and basically get the news around that don't tell the adults this. There are people coming to help us. We're going to pull the fire alarm and basically make a run for it.
Yeah.
So one thing also, when she frees the demons, we also get the gist that there's not really camera or video in this world.
Yeah.
So
they don't have that, it seems.
So they don't know that who.
Yeah. They set it up to make it look like the door was left unlocked. Yeah. Basically. So anyway, so she that night, she climbs. If she tells everyone, spread the word, like get ready. She climbs up into the air ducts and like goes. Does she know that Mrs. Coulter is there at that point?
Yeah, I think they know that she arrived.
Mrs. Coulter arrives, and like Lyra's like, God, can't let her see me. So that night, she climbs up in the air ducts like towards like the meeting room so she can spy on them and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what she overhears.
Okay, so she overhears some interesting things. First of all, we find out that they don't know who freed the demons, but that's the thing that they want to figure out. And Mrs. Coulter is not happy about this. We also find out that they have a new prototype for a new way to separate children from the demons that is less violent, because not only is it horrific to just separate a child from a demon, the actual act of it is horrifying, and also...
And apparently it was more violent than it is now.
Yeah, and was like disturbing to some of the people who had to perform it, which, shocker.
Yeah.
And so they have like this new blade. It's like that can just and separate them really easily, which Mrs. Coulter is very excited to see a demonstration of the next day. And she also overhears, I think this is where we do get the idea that what they are doing here is related to dust.
Yes. Yeah.
In some way, like it's because of what we learned about dust being whatever it is. It's some kind of particle. We don't know what it is. It's some kind of elementary particle. But the way that it interacts differently with humans and adults and children is of interest to the church in some way. Mm-hmm. And they're something about the demon bond has something to do with that. And severing children is a way of like protecting them from becoming an adult.
Yeah.
We get more on that later.
Yeah. Thank you for that, because I didn't really remember exactly what she overheard. I just remember that after she overhears stuff, she like makes a noise, and they, like, Mrs. Coulter has left the room, but the scientist is still there, and they're like, what the heck is that? And then she ends up falling through the ceiling, basically, and they're like, what? Oh, no, she overheard things. Guess we gotta go separate her from her demon right now.
Yeah. They're like, well, we gotta test it out right now, I guess.
Yeah.
And they don't know who she is. Like, they don't know. She told them that her name was, like, Lizzie or something.
Yeah, so they have no idea who she is.
She's real good at this lying thing.
Yeah.
And a really, like, also awful part that happens during this is that when they're trying to subdue her, one of the dudes grabs Pantalaimon.
Like, you're not supposed to
do
touch
that.
people's demons.
And it really does it feels like it's
icky.
It's
feels
so
icky. And, like, I physically felt it. I was like, ah.
And because, like, she describes how it feels so wrong, and it does feel almost, like, akin to, like a kind of assault.
Yeah, like, absolutely. And
in this case, like, it does work to subdue her, and, like, the person who does that does it so because she will basically not be able to fight back.
Yeah, and, like, he doesn't even seem to think twice about it, which is, like, crazy.
Yeah. And then that, like, even more traumatic is that they bring her into the room with the thing to basically separate her.
And they put her in a cage, or not a cage. Is she in the cage, too?
Yeah, I think they're both in cages.
Pan is in a cage. And
there's this, like, silver blade in between.
Yeah, that will sever the link somehow between them.
Yes.
And in my head, I'm like, okay, obviously she gets out of this. This is a 3-book series. Like, I know she does, but in my head, I'm like, oh my god, how? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
It's really tense to read it. It's really tense. And it's intense. Like, Lyra is like, and Pan are, like, clinging to each other. They're like, no, we'll never be separated. Yeah, we can't do this. And, of course, fortunately, they do go get fortunately, in this case, they go get Mrs. Coulter because she would want to see the demonstration. So she gets there just in time to see that it's Lyra in the cage.
And she's like, no!
Yeah.
Because she knows that Lyra's her daughter.
Yeah.
Like, even if Lyra didn't know it, like, she knows. And so she stops it. And she's like, no, oh my god. And she's like, what happened? And so, like, Lyra's really good at, and again, lying, thinking on her feet. And she's like, I don't know, like, I just went out after that party and I got stolen. Like, she's, like, lying that, you know, she didn't come here purposely. Like, she didn't run away purposely. Like, this is all some mistake. And she was so scared. Why are they doing that? Oh my god. But then very quickly after that, she's like, all right, time to put the plan in action. And I don't remember how she gets away from Mrs. Coulter.
Well, we learn more interestingly, actually, when she's with Mrs. Coulter. Because, like, Mrs. Coulter takes her to her rooms and is, like, taking care of her. And the golden monkey's there, obviously. Yes. And it's a very interesting scene because we get Mrs. Coulter, like, trying to actually take care of Lyra and be like, you know, oh, no, I wouldn't let that happen to you. But also, and Lyra's asking, like, but why would they do that? Why would they do that to children? And so then we get to see why. That's
right, I forgot. I'm jumping ahead to the
Coulter,
action.
Try to explain this to Lyra in such an interesting way because clearly she doesn't want that to happen to her daughter, but at the same time, she's behind all of this. Mm-hmm. So how is she going to explain the cognitive dissonance there?
Yeah.
And so basically she gives this explanation of, like, well, you know, when children become adults and, like, dust interacts with them differently and it's basically like original sin. Is this where we learn that?
I think so.
I think we do.
I think so.
Or we definitely learn it later, like at the end of the book.
Yeah,
but maybe I won't term it in that way.
She doesn't say, like, original sin, but she basically kind of, like, says bad stuff.
Basically says, like, you know, like, when there's a whole lot of complicated things that happen when you become an adult, and we're trying to basically spare children from that process. And you see there's plenty of adults here who've had their demons separated and who work in this lab.
And so that explains all of the, like, very blah people who just don't have any imagination. But they got their demons separated when they were adults.
Yes. But we do get the sense that these people are a lot less vivacious. They don't have curiosity.
They're not, like, broken shells like the kids are, or at least that one kid, Tony, is, but they are shells.
Yeah, and they're seemingly pretty easy to control. They don't have a lot of thoughts for themselves. So we're getting a better idea of, like, what a demon bond actually does for a person, what it means for a person. And if we're really astute, we might be getting an idea of where the benefits for some people might come in of separating people from their demons. Why people might think, this is a good thing.
Yes.
To do.
If you're like me and you just want to skip to the action. So then Lyra is able to do something. Like
because Mrs. Coulter's trying to ask her about the alethiometer because it's clear that like as much as she's trying to be kind to Lyra and everything, there's something bothering her.
Yeah.
And the Golden Monkey is kind of portraying that with his like fur standing on it and whatnot.
Because he's creepy
and
scary.
So eventually Mrs. Coulter like loses her composure and is like, I need to know about this thing, whatever.
Yeah.
And Lyra is trying to keep it from her, but she actually was clever and ahead of time
had stashed the alethiometer not on her person up in the vents, but like not.
I think she had it. I think she did have it on her person, but she had it like in a separate pouch.
No, she had it. I think she had it. She left it in her coat. Like instead of putting she had this pouch that she kept it in, like a waterproof pouch, and she put in there when she was climbing through the duct. She put in the beetle tin, I think.
Yeah, the tin with the beetle that they soldered shut.
We talked about that earlier. Yeah. So she put that in there because I guess it's around the same size and weight, and she put her alethiometer in her coat pocket, which she left in the vents by her bed.
Yeah.
So then
she gives the bag to Mrs. Coulter. She takes out the tin and she's like, oh, you tried really hard to protect this thing. Let me just get it open. And so she's trying to pry it open. And when she finally does, that bug flies out in her face and attacks her.
Right. And that's how
Lyra gets away.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I said Lyra. Sometimes I say Lyra in my head. It's Lyra. I did so well up until now. I can't believe I said that.
I didn't even hear it.
I did. Because when I first read the book, I pronounced it Lyra. And, like, you find out that, like, there's an obvious, like, in the second book, like, someone pronounces it or, like, mentions how it sounds. And so then that's when I knew for sure it was Lyra. So, anyway, it's Lyra. So she runs out and she's, like, gonna put this plan into action where she pulls a fire alarm. But on her way, she passes the kitchen. And, again, very quick thinking. She's like, oh, let me go turn on all the gas. And then, like, spill some flour that is like super flammable in nearby, and then she runs out, keeps going. There's an explosion, like fire alarm goes off. The kids have all, like, she told them, like, make sure you get your winter stuff ready. They've all got it ready, so they're going out because they're not gonna wait for, you know, the adults. Obviously, they're like, we're gonna go. She runs back in, goes up, grabs her jacket and the alethiometer, runs outside, and then she's like, it's just a very tense, like, exhausting scene of like her ushering these kids away and like they're being chased by people and like the Tartars, whose demons are all wolves. We mentioned them earlier, they're a northern tribe. Like they're coming, and so they're trying to like get to them, and like all this stuff is happening, and also the kids are cold. There's witches
who are attacking on both sides.
Yeah, because like some of the witches are working with the people of Bolvangar, some of them are like with Serafina Pekkala and the Egyptians, and it's like it's chaos. But she does manage to get these kids to walk all the way through the snow to the sleds of the Egyptians, and like, yes, freedom. But then like almost immediately Mrs. Coulter is there, like
in like a Zeppelin, because Zeppelins are the main air travel.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And like, well, isn't she on a sled first or something?
Maybe, yeah. But
I think she arrived on she arrived on a Zeppelin to Bolvangar.
Various points.
Yeah, and then like she arrives on a sled, I think, with Tartars, and like she grabs Lyra, and then like Roger's trying to help fight, and like everything is like crazy, and then she almost gets taken, but then she doesn't. And she gets rescued by Lee Scoresby and Yorick Byrnison, and the two of them like get all of them up into Lee's balloon, and then they're separated from the Egyptians.
Yeah, so now it's Lee, Yorick, Roger, and Lyra in the balloon.
Yeah.
And the demons, of course.
And they're demons. And so like they're up in this balloon now, and I think we're meant to understand that like the Egyptians got away and they're gonna be fine. Like all the kids are safe, like yay, mission accomplished. But now they just like, because Mrs. Coulter is specifically chasing Lyra, they're like, okay, gotta go away. And Serafina Pekkala, the witch, is now with them, so because she's helping guide the balloon and like create the right winds for it. So now we've got this cute little merry band of 5, really, and it's nice. And things calm down a little bit now because they're up in the air and no one can really get them. And she starts to learn a little bit more about Lee, and Lee and Serafina talk a little bit.
Yeah, while Lyra's asleep.
Yeah,
and they talk about the prophecy, and then Lee gives basically he talks about, hey, you know, I signed up to get paid for this mission, and I don't know how I feel about how things have gone. And he's basically talking about his place in this whole thing, and like, does he have a purpose here? Does he care more about like the money and like his, you know, just keeping his peace, or does he care about the cause, right?
Yeah. All right, so now we're starting to near the end a little bit, but there's still a few key things that have to happen.
So we're in the balloon, and there is an attack. I think it's
by
witches.
Cliff Gas.
Oh, Cliff Gas. That's right.
Which is some leathery winged creature in my mind that like is like half human, half vulture, but like leather. That's how I picture it. I don't remember the exact description.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a weird picture in my head of what they are, which I don't think has anything to do with the book's description, to be honest. But they're another creature in this world that does not align with the creatures that we have in our world, basically. Yeah. And they also, I think, do talk or something. They're somewhat sentient, but sort of dumb. But they attack, and in the attack, the balloon does get jostled and starts to go down, and somehow Lyra ends up falling out on her own, and then getting swept up, like, the rest of them get swept away to somewhere else. So Lyra is now on her own with Pantalaimon, of course. In where they were headed, essentially, was Svalbard, because Lyra had wanted to go to Svalbard to bring Yorick Byrnison back, who used to be the king there, actually. Yeah. And I forget exactly why they were going. I don't know if it was...
I don't remember exactly what it was either.
Or if they were just going in that direction.
They were going to Svalbard because I think the armored bears were the ones... Yes, okay, here it is.
Oh.
So what happened was, somewhere along the way, we find out that Lord Asriel has been captured and imprisoned.
Why. Mm-hmm.
And they took him to the bears at Svalbard, who set up a prison for him.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're going to Svalbard. Yorick Byrnison doesn't actually want to go back, but he kind of has to. Well, he's going to because he is like basically like I will help Lyra at all costs, and so that's why they're going back, because Lord Asriel is being held at Svalbard. So fortunately or unfortunately but really fortunately for Lyra, she gets
dumped out.
right there,
right into Svalbard. We don't know where Yorick, Lee, and Roger are. Or any of the witches, and presumably they don't know where she is, but she is found by some of the armored bears on the island and brought to the castle of the current king. What's his name?
Eofor?
Oh, Eofor Rakison?
Yeah,
something like that.
Rakison.
And that is the person who cast...
Well, not person.
The bear. Who cast Yorick out.
In a very suspect way.
Mm-hmm.
It seems, and this comes out a little bit more clearly, like, while she's there, but it seems that he had drugged another bear who challenged Yorick to a fight, but wouldn't back down when he was bested, which is the custom.
Mm-hmm.
And so Yorick had no choice but to kill him, and then because he killed him, he was cast off, because you don't do that.
No, not unless it was the specific rules of the battle.
Right, and it wasn't. So... she's taken to the palace, the castle, whatever, where first of all, the way that's described. Oh, God.
Like, when she's going into the palace or whatever, it's just like, it smells rank. It's disgusting. Like, seal blubber and dead meat and all that. And
bird droppings and covered up by perfume.
Yeah. And
for some reason, they let a lot of birds in there.
Yeah.
Which never was clear to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's just some Arctic birds who hang around there. But they over the story, like Eofor has come up a few times. Mm-hmm. And so we've learned a little bit about him and his personality through this. We know that he's working with Mrs. Coulter and those people there. We also know that he has a desire to be like a human.
Yeah.
And that's unusual for the bears. The bears are generally pretty happy with being bears. But Eofor, having built this palace, which they did not have before, and having changed a lot of the bear customs, he's basically shaking things up in the beardom.
Trying to emulate people, and it's weird, but he's also king, so like they kind of have to go with it.
Yeah.
So Lyra's put in a prison cell with an old guy who turns out to be a scholar. He's gone a little crazy because it seems like he's been alone for a while. But he apparently had been hired to help Yorick or not Eofor set up some sort of college there, again, to emulate people. But for whatever reason, I don't remember what it was, and it's probably not important, but for whatever reason, like, some doubt was cast upon this scholar, and Eofor didn't trust him anymore, so threw him in prison. So then, from talking to this guy, Lyra remembers way back at the beginning of the book, when she was hiding in the wardrobe, she heard the master of Jordan College and some other guy talking about Eofor, though she didn't know it was him, talking about the leader of the
Panzerbjorn.
Panzerbjorn. That's what this race of talking armored bears is called.
Panzerbjorn.
And talking about the leader and saying that, like, oh, what he wants more than anything else is his own demon, because bears don't have that. And so, like, she gets an idea, and she's like, well, take me, she says to the guards, like, take me to Eofor, and she, like, lies her way to get him to the bears to, like, take her there, because they're not super used to this new human-like culture. And she's like, well, I can't tell you what I have to tell Eofor, like, that is only for the king to hear. And the bear's like, okay, I guess, like, sure. So
because they don't really know what to do anymore. They're being asked to behave in ways that are not bear-like,
and they don't like it, but they also, like I said, they can't, like, really do anything about it. Yeah.
So they take her to him, and we get a really fascinating display of her talents at storytelling. I really actually love this scene.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And honestly, I think when I was a kid and I was reading this, I didn't care for this part.
Same.
Like, I don't think I gave a fuck about Svalbard and the bears.
No.
But
this definitely stood out to me more now than it did then.
But it's actually a really interesting scene. So she lies her ass off to Eofor about how she is actually Yorick Byrnison's demon.
And he's like, what? My mortal enemy that I cast out of here has a demon before me?
And she justifies it by saying at Bolvangar they're doing all those experiments with separating children from their demons, and while they were doing that, they also discovered how to bond a demon to a bear. And so she says...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, she tells Eofor, basically, but I don't want to be Yorick Byrnison's demon. I'd like to be yours.
And also, you can't get one because they decided they're going to stop the experiments because it's too dangerous. So they're not going to do it anymore. They're not going to add any demons to bears. But if you could kill Yorick Byrnison, then I would become your demon. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah, and the thing is, she learned earlier in this book that armored bears really can't be fooled by humans. Like, they really can't be tricked. They have, like, supernatural instincts to a certain extent, and also are a lot bigger and stronger than humans in a lot of ways. But she gets the idea because Eofor wants so badly to be human. That desire in him to be human, that humanness that he is adopting, makes him fallible like a human. And it's really interesting because it does work, because he desires this so badly. He's so covetous of this concept of being human, of having a demon, that
he's like,
he's just like, he really wants to believe her. Now, he does have caution, so he asks her, basically she says, as a demon, I have insights into Yorick Byrnison, and, like, I have a connection there, but there's a lot of things that I can know without that other people wouldn't be able to know, and so ask me something about you that I wouldn't be able to know. And so he does ask her a question, and she says, you can't witness this process until I'm your demon, but I have to go into a dark room, basically, and, like, or another room, and, like, I'll find the answer. So she takes the alethiometer and goes to find the answer to the question, which is about the first person that Eofor Rakison killed.
Which turned out to be his father, which is definitely a no-no in the bear community.
Yes, but she does tell him that that's what she finds.
And he's, like, shook.
Yeah.
Because people don't know that. Obviously, the other bears don't know that, because he would have been cast out long ago.
So she also asked the alethiometer where Eofor Rakison was. I mean, Yorick Byrnison was, because she doesn't know if he's on the island, but he is, and he's on his way here. The alethiometer tells her that he's about 4 hours out.
Yeah.
So she tells Eofor this, and basically makes a gamble of, like, challenge him to a duel to the death when he gets here, instead of just killing him outright, like he would normally be killed by trying to come back as an exile. But she's like, instead of killing him outright, challenge him to a duel to the death, and that is the way that you can take me on as your demon instead. And she convinces him to do this, but she's also secretly terrified because she's like, what if I just doomed Yorick to death?
She's standing in front of Iofur, who is huge, even almost bigger than Yorick, and also not tired and well-fed. Meanwhile, Iorek Byrnison has been fighting and is tired and cold. Well, I don't know about cold. But
I don't think the bears get cold.
He's a bear. But he's tired and malnourished probably. And so she's like,
and he has like his like rusted armor.
Yeah.
Whereas like Yorick or Iofur has really shiny like new armor.
Yeah. And so she's like, how is he gonna best this bear? But also like, if I don't do this, he will just die. Like they will kill him on sight. So they don't kill him on sight. He does show up. She tells Iofur like, oh, okay, I have to pretend still. Like he has to think that I am still on his side. So I have to go to him. Like just let me. And Iofur's like, yeah, whatever, go. So she does go and she tells Iorek like what the plan is. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, thank you. This is what I want to do. I wanted to fight this bear to the death. So thank you for giving me my chance.
Yeah, he doesn't really have fear. Or I think there's one point where he says, if I come across fear, I will best it or something like that. So he's not like, he's like prepared to do what he's got to do.
And he does. It is one of the most, I mean, this is a very tense book. It is one of the most tense parts of the book where we're like with Lyra watching Yorick fight Iofur, and it is like,
it's tense.
Philip Pullman does not pull punches, no pun intended, when he is describing like everything that's happening. That's the thing, is like throughout the book, a lot of violence, a lot of death, a lot of like imagery of, you know, this like people getting cut or like things like happening, and in this case in particular, like a lot of like back and forth of like the bears hurting each other, but then like he basically at the end, whenever Yorick wins, he basically like rips Iofur's jaw off.
Yeah,
and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, his jaw just gone.
Yeah, so but it's a really intense,
scary
scene.
Yeah, it's a really good scene, but very gory. Mm-hmm. But yay, Iofur's dead.
And Yorick becomes king again.
Yeah, and all the bears accept this and move on with their lives.
They're honestly more than ready to, because Yorick is like, we're gonna dismantle this stupid castle. Like, we're not gonna do all this.
We're not gonna be humans.
Stuff. Like, we're not gonna be humans. Mm-mm. We're gonna be bears, and they're secretly like, oh yes, okay, good.
Like, at least we know how to do that.
Yeah.
So then Lyra and Roger are reunited because Roger was with
Lee Scoresby.
He's not there yet, I don't think.
Oh yeah, no.
No, I think he actually got blown away.
He got blown away. Yeah. Roger arrived with Yorick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got blown. His balloon got blown.
Yes.
To another location. She actually asked the alethiometer about that too.
Yes.
But basically at this time, it's her and Roger, and then Yorick and some other bears take them to Lord Asriel's prison, where Lord Asriel has, even though he's a prisoner, he's like asserted his dominance, so he was able to convince them to give him like a whole like ass house and like equipment so he can continue his like research that he's doing with the dust in the other worlds and stuff. So he's just been hanging out here chilling, literally, because it's cold. And so they take them to his house, and they show up, and he opens the door, or he comes out. I think actually his manservant first opens the door.
Who, like, underrated character, by the way. I didn't write about him in my notes, but I remember when... Well, I did... Well, my notes are on my phone, so I can't get them up now. But I did write a little bit where I was like, oh, what a guy. Don't remember his name, though, but...
No.
I liked him.
But he's there, and he's happy to see Lyra. But then Lord Asriel comes out, and he is pissed. He's like shocked. He's like upset. Like, he's like, no, like... You can't be here. Go away. Like, whatever. And it's, like, disarming because on the one hand, he's, like, he's not, like, a cuddly, warm, cuddly dude. But we're not really sure why he's so upset to see her. Then Roger steps out, too. Like, he's there, too. And Lord Asriel immediately calms down.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
He's like, okay.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And I'm like, I didn't remember exactly what happened, but I was like...
Sus.
Yeah.
And... Bill Pullman doesn't leave everything to us to figure out, because Roger actually states this outright later when they're taking a bath and they're all warm and inside. He's like, yeah, that moment when, like, Lord Asriel was upset that you were here, and then he saw me, and then he was, like, chill again. That was weird, and I'm uncomfortable, and he scares me.
And I was like, yeah, but nah.
Yeah, and
she doesn't really see it.
She doesn't really, like, she's not, like, full on, like, oh, I, like, completely trust this man, but she's also, like, more likely to.
Yeah.
She's less, you know, she's like, yeah. But then she thinks about it, and she's like, I could ask the alethiometer, but then Roger's like, I'd rather not know the future, to be honest. It's too much has even happened, like.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I won't ask it. So.
Unfortunate for everybody.
Yes.
Because... And now we're getting very much to the end. Lord Asriel he absconds with Roger that night up further north. Not like that much further north, but we're just constantly going further north. Like, there's no sunlight anymore. Like, there are no, like, it's just night perpetually. And, like, Lyra realizes this and she's, like, asking the butler guy, like, what's going on? And he doesn't really know, but he kind of can...
I think he, like, wakes her up, and he's like, Lyra...
Oh, is he the one who wakes her up? Yeah.
Because he's either Lyra wakes up and notices and goes to him, or he wakes her up and is like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Lord
he knows
Asriel.
It's bad. He doesn't know what's happening, but he's like, I've never seen him like this.
But wait, before we get to that, Lord Asriel and Lyra do have a conversation, and
this
is where we learn about Dust, and the fact that because Dust interacts with adult humans, but not really children... The church essentially thinks that it's, like, original sin. So it's, like, basically Dust is, like, the result of, or it's linked to, like, when Eve, you know, ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge and then, like, got self-awareness, basically.
Which the story's a little bit different in this book. I don't remember it exactly, but I remember writing in my notes that I liked it better. It made more sense in this
The story that they tell includes the demons. The demons are part of it, because, like, in this version of Adam and Eve, the demons are part of them being human. But it's, like, they basically... like have the presumption that dust is essentially original sin, like it's connected to the original sin, and so the reason they're separating the children from their demons is like they've discovered that the demon bond has something to do with that, and the fact that the demons like take a solidified form as you get older is part of that process, and so they're basically trying to keep the children from original sin, like that knowledge.
Which is like one of the stupidest
the self-awareness,
things
ever.
Like, just in the whole, like, especially as you go on throughout this series, like, the lengths that they go to and, like, the way that they're up in arms about this thing that I'm like, oh my god, like, whatever. It's just so, it feels so trivial, especially because, like, they've been living this way for thousands, like, humans have been living this way for thousands upon thousands of years, so, like... Why do you need to fix it now? But, like, okay, anyway. And I can't believe...
they think dust is bad,
yeah,
essentially,
they think dust is bad.
Like...
But I can't believe I was going to skip over this part, because this is where I was like, Lord Asriel became one of my least favorite characters. Because he just, like, will not give Lyra the time of day. And I'm like, you do not understand. And this does kind of continue a little bit. Like, I'm continuously annoyed at him for this, but I'm like, you just like do not, you just think your daughter is a child. You do not understand like what she has done to come here. Like, you don't understand how smart she is, how like resourceful she is.
He just kind of like doesn't see the value.
Like, he almost doesn't even talk to her. And she's like, no, you owe this to me. Like,
to, like, explain things.
Yeah.
And also the fact that you're my father and, like, you never told me what was that about.
And she's like, I don't really care. You know what? Fine. If you don't want to be my father, fine. But, like, you owe an explanation. Like, you do. And he does, at least. But I am like, yeah, you do, dude. Like,
and I do think this conversation about, like, dust and original sin is one of the most important and interesting points in the book, because it does finally tell you what all this is about. And it's like, the church is... First of all, suppresses the study of dust and the conversation around it and the existence of it, because they are afraid of it. They're afraid of it and what implications it has for the doctrine that they're enforcing on the people. But also because they do think it's something bad. They think original sin is bad. They think that is bad. And so they're trying to stamp it out. They're trying to do something about it. And that's why Mrs. Coulter, with the General Oblation Board, was able to come in and like research that and garner power with them, because they want to keep that under their control and figure out some way to do something about it without the knowledge of the general public. But also we are informed throughout the book basically that like there's different I forget what they're called, like parts of the church, like different departments,
I always
like different governing bodies that are all vying for power at any given time, and sometimes new ones will crop up, like in service to other ones. And
so, like the General Oblation Board was a newer one.
Yeah, that basically was a way that I think Miss Coulter basically saw to gain power, and like took control basically of this whole experimentation in order to gain like some kind of notoriety within the church. But yeah, it's just a very fascinating conversation because that's where we know, okay, that's what this book is about. It's about growing up, but it's also about like the difference between children and adults and like what does that really mean, and also how do we define that, and how do the people around us define that, and how does that control how we experience life and like all that kind of thing. Yeah. But in any case, after this conversation, after the kids go to bed, then that's when Lord Asriel takes Roger.
That's when he takes Roger.
And the manservant who does help Lyra, like, by telling her, like, yeah, he took the kid and I don't know where they're going, like, he's loyal to Lord Asriel, but he's also concerned about the implications of what's happening here. Yeah. He is definitely upset about it. And he just seems like a overall pretty stand-up guy.
So, Lyra goes outside, wakes up Iorek Byrnison, who is, of course, there, just chilling outside, sleeping. And he takes her up north, like, in pursuit of Lord Asriel, like, as far as he can take her. And she's, like, super worried, because she's like, I came all this way to save Roger, and now my dad is, like, I think gonna kill him. Like, what the heck? So she goes up there, he drops her off at this bridge, like this ice bridge that he can't cross, and she's barely able to cross it before, like, it gives way. So then now she's on her own again, and she does she does, like, get there where Lord Asriel and Roger is, but she's too late. And unfortunately, Roger does end up perishing in this whole thing as Lord Asriel uses the energy from separating.
Yeah, so we learn that when a child is separated from their demon, it releases a tremendous amount of energy. And I forget if, like, we learned this with Lord Asriel, if we learned this with back at Bolvangar.
Yeah, I don't remember. I might be back at Bolvangar.
But essentially, Lord Asriel learned of this and knew of this, and while he wasn't involved in all the separating children from their demons thing, he saw an opportunity of, like, well, I could harness that energy and use it to do what I want to do, which is, we learn, build a bridge from this world through to the city in the Aurora Borealis.
That was mentioned way back.
Yes. And earlier. I think at this point we still don't fully understand what his goals are, like what his long-term goals are, why this is so important to him, but we know that that's what he wants to do, and he needed a child and their demon to do that by separating them. So he had the equipment, he knew what they were studying in Bolvangar, and he used that knowledge to do that with Roger. Lyra gets there, there's a scuffle, but essentially he does manage to separate Roger and his demon and bust open the world into another world, the city in the Aurora Borealis, so that he can walk through and do whatever he wants to do. We don't know what he's going to do.
No. And right before he does that, Mrs. Coulter shows up because she was in hot pursuit. And she's just there. But Lyra's hiding. And, like, at this point, Roger's dead. Because I guess he also died when this happened. I was unclear about how he died.
Yeah, I think it was because I think it was like the shock.
Avalanche.
He did almost fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
But I think what actually killed him was the shock of being separated, because they did say that in the ways that they had separated children before, sometimes they did die immediately.
And this was not the nice fancy knife thing that they almost used on Lyra. This was older. Yeah, so he died. Sad. Lyra's really sad. She's like, I came all this way to save you and now you're dead. But, like, now she's hiding. And Mrs. Coulter's there. And, like, Mrs. Coulter and Lord Asriel have this really weird moment where he's like, come with me. And
there's, like, a lot of sexual tension. And their demons are, like...
their demons are, like,
touching each other. Yeah, it's like, weird. And I kind of loved it, but I was also like, this is weird.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay. And he's like, come with me. We can destroy dust together. And she's like, no, I can't. And then leaves.
Yeah.
And then Lord Asriel goes through.
And it's like, in this conversation, it's like, okay, so they both want to destroy dust,
we're like,
question mark?
On the same side?
But yes. But we don't really know. Like, we still don't fully understand either of their, mostly Lord Asriel's, but either of their motivations.
Yeah.
But in a way that feels like you're not supposed to. It feels like you're supposed to still be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so Lyra and Pantaleimon basically watch this exchange, and Mrs. Coulter leaves, and Lord Asriel leaves through the portal, and she and Pan have this conversation that I think beautifully caps off the story of like, hey, listen, if these people who do such horrible things to children say that this thing, dust, is bad, then maybe because what they are doing is clearly bad, dust is actually good. And so they decide to make up their own minds about it, because they're like, we can't trust these adults who, they'll do horrible things in pursuit of this, and so we're just going to go off on our own, and we're going to find dust, and we're going to figure out what it is for ourselves.
And so they walk through the portal doorway, whatever you want to call it, and that's how the book ends.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, great cliffhanger.
No
pun intended, because they're on a cliff at this point.
Yeah. And this is a story where, if hearing us describe it, you're still unsure about how all these things come together, and if it sounds like it shouldn't work as a story, I want to urge you to actually read it, because the way that things are described and put together, for the most part, I think actually is really well done. And in describing the story, like, we missed out on a lot of detail and a lot of how the story even slots into place along the way that makes it make sense. It makes it an entertaining and interesting story.
And, like, just really well done, and, like, a great reading experience, too. So I second that. I want to highly recommend. I just pulled my laptop out to see if I have any extra thoughts. But I do agree that it's worth the read. Or reread if you've already read it. Read and repeat, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one of the final things I want to touch on is Lyra's just like, and maybe I'll talk about this more in our video for the second book, but like, it's hard to pin her down as a child, because like in some moments she does have a childlike attitude, and is like insolent and like sure of herself in the way that kids are, and like doesn't want to listen to authority, and like just doesn't think through all of the like repercussions of her actions, but then at the same time is like very quick thinking and very smart, and you're kind of like, are you sure you're only 11? But also I guess it makes sense that you're 11. Like, it's very interesting.
It is, and I think we do see in what we at least see of her parents so far, and we learn more obviously about all of them as the books go on, but we see where she comes from, in the sense of like being a quick liar, storyteller, very intelligent, but also like courageous, bold, what and whatnot. However it comes through with her parents as people, like, they clearly have all these traits. Yeah. Like, the fact that they made this human...
Yes, it checks out.
It makes sense.
But she is obviously the best parts of the two of them.
Yeah,
like, 100% clearly.
Because
like,
she has a lot of heart. And
compassion.
And compassion. Like, that's a major thing. Because as much as she as a character can be a storyteller, she doesn't always think things through. It might even, like, describing her character, it might be tempting to even... like, think of her as like a troublemaker, or someone or a kid who just like gets in trouble a lot and doesn't really think about other people's feelings and things like that. She has a tremendous amount of compassion. She bonds quickly and easily with the people that she's meant to bond. Yeah. Like Yorick, Lee Scoresby, Serafina Pekkala, all the Egyptians.
Even though like Serafina Pekkala is like hardly in it, but you see it more in the next book, like how much of an impact Lyra has had on her. And Lee too. Like you're like, oh damn, like, okay. Like,
everyone who comes into contact with her...
except for Lord Asriel.
Yeah, basically is, like, loves her and also respects her quite a bit. And she loves very passionately and earnestly. Like, she just loves people and expresses her emotions very outwardly. And I feel like it simultaneously lends to her more childlike nature, but at the same time... is a respectable trait. Like, it's not...
Yeah.
I think a lot of the childlike traits of hers, or of a lot of the children, that could be played off as, like, oh, just kids being kids, or kids being annoying, or kids being too much, is given a lot of respect in this book. Like, there is a lot of respect given to childhood, I feel, in these books.
I agree.
And children in general. Which makes sense, because it's a book kind of about a system that is not respecting children at all, that is sacrificing children, is doing horrible things to children for the sake of dogma, essentially, and upholding that dogma and upholding control. And it's really no wonder that the Catholic Church had something to say about that.
Yeah.
But it's also no wonder where this author got the idea.
Yeah, it all makes sense. It all checks out. Like, it's very, very well done.
Yeah.
I don't really have too much else to add. I think just one funny thing that I thought, this is just funny. Speaking of Mrs. Coulter, we were talking about Lyra's parents like a little bit ago now, but I had a note in I literally wrote in my notes like, the plot thickens. Anne Coulter is horrible, and the Oblation Board is the Gobblers. And I did not notice that. Like, I did not do that purposely when I was going through it.
I don't know what her first name is, but it's not Anne.
No, it's not Anne. We don't even know her first name. Oh, we do at some point know her first name.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I don't remember
it's Marissa.
It's Marissa.
Yeah.
This was like earlier in the book, when Lyra's finding out that Mrs. Coulter is part of it, and I just like, instead of writing Mrs. Coulter, my brain just, and I just thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. Comment if you think that's funny as well.
Yeah.
Or if you don't think it's funny, let me know. I had to share. Let's see, anything else that I didn't talk about?
One thing I did want to say also is, I want to reiterate what I said earlier in this talk about this book being heavily inspired by
Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Because that is important, and it kind of also gives you a framework. I
was going to say, have you read Paradise Lost?
No.
Okay, I haven't either.
But listen, this is the second book that we've talked about on this podcast that has been heavily inspired by Paradise Lost. And if we get to the Mortal Instruments anytime soon, it will not be the last. And it's just so funny that a lot of very different books, but a lot of young adult literature was inspired by Paradise Lost. John Milton. If
you're wondering what our other book that we read that was inspired by Paradise Lost was, you should go check out our Blue Bloods video.
Yeah, because it's a take. That's a take. It's a different take.
Yeah.
But that's something to keep in mind as well, because it doesn't, I don't think it's as obvious necessarily in this one, but with the idea of like original sin and dust and all that, like obviously we're talking about the fall of humanity and like the idea of like being fallen.
And I think that is expanded upon more too as
it becomes more obvious. I also wanted to note that it's not the only thing that's inspired this book, because I read a few things about Philip Pullman and what he said about his works, and he says that he basically is like takes inspiration from everywhere, which is
it makes sense.
I
see that.
Yeah,
I absolutely see that.
And that's a very writerly thing to do. It's not unusual. I know like people might be like, oh, like taking ideas from other places. It's like, no, but that's how you create things.
Whether you intend to or not, you do.
Yeah. So he's very upfront about that, and he also oh, there was one more thing that I wanted to say about him, and I forget what it was. I don't think I wrote it down, too. Oh, yes, I did. I do remember.
Okay.
Well, we can talk more about, like, him and the church and all that later, I think, with later books.
Yeah.
But with what I want to say specifically is that because reading this book, even as a kid, it doesn't feel like a children's book in the sense of some of the subject matter is very heavy, very dark. And also there's like a lot of things, a lot of philosophy, even a lot of scientific concepts, especially even in later books as well, it comes in even more, that as a child, even as an adult, you wouldn't necessarily have the background to have the context for. But I think the story does a very good job of like balancing the more childlike perspective and also just telling us things when we need to know them, and also like leaving things up to our own, like, either research or just our own, like, mental reasoning to figure out. But he did say outright, he doesn't really like the idea of limiting a book's age range in any way. So he doesn't like to say, like, oh, yeah, this book is for children or this book is for young adults or whatever. He doesn't write with just, like, this is my target audience in mind, which definitely comes through in this story.
It totally comes through. Like, there's so much relatable stuff in it. And I don't mean relatable and like, oh, I totally see myself. Like, I don't mean it like that, but it's like, it's concepts and ideas that you can understand and like assign new meaning to or more meaning to it as an adult. Like, I totally got way more out of this. Listen, I enjoyed the books as a kid. I have way more out of it now. And I think that's great. So I'm going to @mention you, Philip. If you are on Instagram, I'll @mention you in the post, and let us know if you enjoy our commentary on this. Anyway. But no, I totally agree.
I really like that. I love when books are just what they are, and it doesn't matter what age of the characters that they're following. They're not trying to talk down to or talk up to anyone. They're just trying to be the story that they are. And I think that's something I always sensed throughout it. And I liked it. So I didn't need to understand everything that was going on fully to know and to feel like... And I feel like when I was reading it, a lot more things made sense intuitively or instinctively that now, looking back, I'm like, I don't even know how I knew that.
Right, yeah.
But, like, I did, right? Yeah. And so it kind of... I feel like it's a story that... It might be something that, like, for a kid reading it might ask you to, like rise to the occasion a little bit to, like, understand it and appreciate it, but at the same time, it's not overbearing, or it's not something that I feel like is
and if you don't necessarily do that, like, you're still going to get a lot out of it, and you're still going to enjoy it. And I'm not going to sit here and say I rose to the occasion in maybe the way that was hoped. I read it, I enjoyed it, and I got some of this stuff, but, you know. And
I don't really think, like, I don't get the sense this book was, like, trying to moralize or teach in any way. It's just trying to be a really interesting story. I just felt like there was a lot of things that, as I grew and as I continued to remember the story, clicked in my brain in a lot of new ways that I, like, was approaching as a kid but wasn't quite able to grasp. And I appreciate that.
And I think I would connect it, too, to another book that we read, Lily's Ghosts, which is about a similar aged child. Well, she's a little bit older.
She's
13. Yeah, so only 2 years older. But, like, in a similar way, it's focused on her, but it's not talking down about the character or the situations. Like, it's not talking down to the people who are reading it. Like, it's very, you know, accessible in a way of, like, anyone can read it and get something out of it. And so go watch that video too.
Yeah, that's like our second one I think we did. I think the last thing I wanted to say was the biggest... I didn't include this. I should have said this when we were talking about how we felt as kids reading this, but like obviously the thing that captured my imagination the most was the concept of a demon. As a kid, I always wanted... I was like, I want my own demon. I think that's the biggest thing that really would draw a younger reader in.
That's true. That's true.
Like, that constant companion animal that can change shapes, but then eventually it, like, settles into your own little personal, like, you know, like, I guess it's, like, this world's version of, like, a spirit animal, but without being, like, culturally appropriative. Or, you know, Patronus, if we... But that kind of thing of, like, an animal that exemplifies an aspect of who you are.
What do you think yours would be?
Well, I actually took a test that I didn't send you. I want to send you so you can take it.
I don't know.
Which, I mean, you could find, like, quizzes online about, like, what's your demon. But this one was a little bit more in depth. And, well, when I was younger, I always was really drawn to the idea of a lynx. I really liked a lynx. That's how I imagined it.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, and now I was thinking about it with this book, I was thinking, like, something more canine, like a fox. But when I took the quiz, should I tell you in this one, or should we wait until you do yours for the next one?
Just tell me.
I got a wolf.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that is canine.
It is, right? So Yeah, wolf. And,
I'll have to take it, because I don't really know. I kind of feel like maybe canine, too. Or cat. I don't know.
And it's, like, the intricate symbolism that these animals represent. It's, like, hard to pin.
Maybe an owl. If it's a bird, an owl. No, I don't really know. I would want something medium-sized, not something too small. I don't want a snake. And
to be fair, to be clear, actually, you don't get to choose what shape your demon is. It's as much a surprise to you as it is to anyone else. Like, you might have an idea.
So that's why a quiz is good, because I don't know.
Because it's supposed to be based on, like, your nature. And one example is a lot of servants happen to have canine, like, domesticated dog breed demons, because they like, you know, following orders and hierarchy.
That's the life that they're
the life that they're more suited to,
and they're more likely to follow, and, like, they take on those traits. And
a lot of like Egyptians have seabirds and birds that fly as theirs, and witches have birds often. And, you know, there's exceptions to every rule, I'm sure, but there's a lot of deeper, I think, symbology in the way that Pullman decides what demons certain characters get, but it's more interesting to explore later on, so we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, and tune into, so Juliana's Demon's a Wolf, tune into our next video to find out what mine is. I will also look forward to finding out what it is. And I think that's gonna be a wrap.
Yeah.
Lot to say. Obviously, a lot was said. A lot more we could say. But at risk of this being another 3-hour video, let's just end it here. We're gonna talk way more about this book, or the series. Anyway, but thank you all for listening to us. Please engage. Let us know if you made it this far. You know, comment what your demon would be. Or just like the video, share it, or wherever you're on. And go follow us on Instagram, so we'll let you know when we do release new podcasts, and hopefully we'll foreshadow when we're just getting the ball rolling. We're getting back into the swing of things. 2025 is going to be a big year for the Read and Repeat podcast, so go follow us on Instagram at Read and Repeat Podcast. Also,
this podcast is on YouTube, but it's also on Apple, Google, whatever else. Spotify.
Wherever
that's Spotify mainly.
Wherever you get your podcasts. Any last thoughts?
I think that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening to us chat about the Golden Compass.
Yeah. Bye. Okay. Do we want to start chapter 1 over?
Start it over? Why?
And just do it faster.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
So we also meet more important people when we're with the Egyptians.
Like John Fa, the leader of the Egyptians, and Fader, Fader, Coram.
Is it Fader or Farder?
I don't know. You gotta go further in the book. Also,
Farder, it's Farder.
Is it really? I thought it was...
Yeah.
I swear to God. It is.
It's
I wish I had my copy, because I don't think the one I read had that.
It's Farder, but
it doesn't matter.
In an English accent, Fada. Fada.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Fada?
Should we pause, because we're at 45 minutes here, so should we...
Yeah, we could pause it.
Okay, just so it's not too big of a file.
Yeah.
Okay. And...